In this video, I'm going to give you my reactions, thoughts and opinions on the new Swarovski NL Pure binoculars, and we're going to start right now.
In order to ensure the highest standard of quality, the products need to be tested. There are several internal Swarovski Optik tests in the quality department as well as out in the field. We also send out a few NL Pure binoculars to bird watchers and hunters all over the world. They already tested the product and they gave us their feedback.
Hello and welcome to Best Binocular Reviews. My name is Jason. Well, I guess BBR isn't big enough yet or important enough to receive a pre-production model from Swarovski yet. But in all seriousness, I have actually reached out to them, and fingers crossed I should have a sample in for testing quite soon, and I'll fully review and test it for you guys. But until that time, what I thought would be interesting is they recently had this launch event, and which I was invited to, along with a bunch of other journalists, to attend. Obviously, with the current situation, it was all virtual. But so what I thought was I would go through this presentation with you and just give you my thoughts and opinions on the main features and specifications of these new Swarovski NL Pure binoculars. Just to let you know that I will actually link to this video down in the description, just so that you can get the thoughts and opinions from people who have actually tested and used the binoculars. I will, however, just warn you a little bit that obviously this is part of their marketing material, so it definitely favors the positive. It's mostly positive. But even having said that, and it's quite simplistic as well. But even having said that, it is worth watching for sure, just because it will just give you a better understanding of how these binoculars look and feel, and some really good points to take note of.
This is our new NL Pure.
Now, one of the first things to really jump out to me from this presentation was the announcement that the NL Pure series would supersede or take the place of the EL series as Swarovski Optik's flagship range. Now, I don't know about you, but in my opinion, the EL range of series of binoculars are up there with the very best in the world, if in the top 3, if not even higher. Now, everyone else will have their own opinion and brand affiliation, for example. So even if you said in the top 5 or even the top 10, the fact that one of the very best binoculars in the world, makers in the world, have come out and said they've made something even better than the best they already produce really got me listening. And I just wanted to understand why, or what have they done to improve on what many will already perceive as being the ultimate binocular.
By rotating the prisms into the right angle, we've been able to slim down the middle of the tubes of the binoculars, right where it has to be. That is the reason why the NL Pure perfectly fits into your hand. From now on, it will be even harder to put your binoculars away. This is definitely the most comfortable pair of binoculars you've ever held.
Now, one of the most distinctive features on these new NL Pure binoculars must surely be the wavy shape to the barrels. Now, quite often in my experience, a new design is purely there for aesthetic reasons, or perhaps to keep up with new trends and the like. But in this case, it does based on the photographs, and as well as the guys, how they're handling the binoculars in the actual presentation, it does look to me that a new design, the form does have a function, and the new design not only looks great, but it does look like your hands just mold into the binoculars, and they could genuinely be really comfortable to hold on to. I, for one, can't wait to try them out.
All NL Pures are coming with the well-known Swarovski technology. Its incredible color fidelity and edge-to-edge sharpness make it easy to perceive every single detail.
Swaro Bright, Swaro Duo and Swaro Top. Based on what I've been able to establish from the presentation as well as a little bit more from their website, it does seem to me that these new NL Pure binoculars will utilize or incorporate all of Swarovski's top level optical coatings. Now, whilst these are excellent to be sure, it also must be said that to me, it doesn't seem like they're in this area, they'll be any different to the EL binoculars. Now, just like the coatings, in terms of the actual glass used, once again, these do look very similar to the EL range of binoculars, in that you can expect to find field flattener lenses, fluoride containing ED glass lens elements, as well as no doubt dielectrically coated roof prisms. Once again, Swarovski don't go into huge detail in any of these, and so it takes quite a lot of digging to find out any sort of information. But to me, it does look they are essentially the same as an EL binocular, which once again is truly excellent to be sure, but they don't actually improve on anything in this regard, based on what I know and what I've been able to find out, and without having actually used them yet. But one thing where they will differ for sure, and it will be interesting to take this further, but one of the big talking points and one of the highlights of the whole presentation was just how wide the new fields of view are going to be on these new NL Pure binoculars.
In the past, we talked a lot about edge-to-edge sharpness. However, there is one thing that is even better. No edges at all. There will be an 8x42 NL Pure with an amazing field of view of 159 meters at 1000 meters. That is 477 feet at 1000 yards. There will be also an NL Pure 10x42 with a field of view of 133 meters at 1000 meters. That is exactly the same field of view than an EL Swarovision 8.5x42 is offering. And compared to the EL 10x42, it's almost 20% more field of view. So 20% more than probably the most popular binocular we've ever had.
Now, to make that wide field of view, they've undoubtedly had to change something with the optical design, most probably within the eyepieces. So, for sure, all three models within the new NL Pure series have an extremely wide field of view in relation to their magnification. So, this is one of the true highlights. And something that it would be interesting to eventually get a little bit more information into what they've done to achieve these extremely wide fields of views, and if it actually affects the view in any other way. Because quite often you can get a binocular with an extremely wide field of view, which looks great on paper, it sounds great on paper, but then perhaps it isn't flat. The whole view that you're looking at isn't flat. Now, in the presentation, they went to great pains to explain that the image is completely sharp from edge to edge. And there's no softening around the edges either, apparently, according to the presentation, which, if it is true with such a wide field of view, it's going to be incredible, because as the way they explained it in the actual presentation is, you become more immersed. You've just got this massive image placed in front of you. And so, I'd like to know exactly how they achieve this, and if they will actually eventually trickle down this new technology or new design to their EL range, which once again, it's whilst these are superseding the EL range, it's important to note that the EL range will continue to be produced and available on the market.
Altogether, there will be 3 NL Pure models: 8x42, 10x42, and a 12x42.
Now, being the most common configurations, or the most sought after and bought configuration, the 8x42 and 10x42 models are no-brainers. But the fact that Swarovski have now decided to produce the NL Pure in a 12 by 42 combination is really interesting to me. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Swarovski has ever made a 12 by 42 binocular before. Now, this is interesting for a number of reasons, and I think it's genuinely a response to market trends, where it seems to me, since especially the last decade or so that I've been talking about and reviewing binoculars, that magnification seems to be getting greater and greater and greater. I mean, everyone wants more powerful binoculars, even though I sometimes try and prevent people from choosing higher powered binoculars, because with higher magnifications come a whole lot of different problems. Now, the fact that Swarovski have able to produce binoculars with such wide fields of view is definitely negates one of the issues of having a higher magnified binocular. So the 12 by 42, for example, will have a field of view of 339 feet at 100 yards away, or in meters about 113 meters at 100 meters away. Now that field of view is actually quite decent, and matches many 10 by 42 binoculars. So the fact that they've been able to produce such a wide field of view means that they can make the power a little bit higher, and you don't sacrifice too much by becoming too much tunnel visioned. Now, one of the other major downsides to using a higher magnification would be the fact that you get image shake much more easily. So it's much harder to keep the image that you're looking at still and steady. So even though you're potentially getting more detail coming into you can't actually appreciate the detail because of the movement in your hands and things like that. So unless you're going to actually mount them onto a tripod, sometimes going a higher power is not a good idea. So the fact that the new shape looks to be really comfortable could help with this, because the more comfortable and the more comfortable grip that you have, just the better you are able to keep the image steady. Now, on top of that, Swarovski, one of the big features of this presentation was their new headrest, which will fit onto the actual NL Pure binoculars.
In addition to the shape of the binocular, there is an awesome, innovative accessory. It's the FRP, Forehead Rest Pure. This adjustable rest fits directly onto your NL Pure. It is adjustable and provides you with a significant increase in stability.
Somewhat interestingly, one of the most talked about features during the presentation, and indeed the one that generated the most interest after the presentation, judging by the amount of questions that the journalist asked about it, would have to be the forehead rest. Now, the reason I say it was interesting, well, it is quite interesting, but even more interesting is the fact that this is an accessory and not actually part of the binocular themselves. Indeed, it won't actually even come with the binocular. If you would like the forehead rest, you actually have to buy it as an extra afterwards, which, especially with the 12 by 42 model, I do think is a bit of a shame. But having said that, it is certainly an interesting aspect to these new binoculars and worth talking about, especially in relation to the two higher powered models. So the 10 by 42 somewhat, and definitely the 12 by 42 model. So previously I mentioned that one of the downsides to having a higher magnification is it just becomes that much more difficult to keep the image steady in your hands, because any movement you make, it gets magnified by the magnification. So the higher the power, the tinier movements, the bigger movement it makes in the view. So potentially having a third anchor point, so one that rests against your forehead, as well as the ones on your eyes, and holding onto the binoculars, could help with this. And I do think it's fairly innovative, and could be something that we see on all binoculars in the future. So that being said, I can't wait to try it out. But I do think that the fact that you have to buy it afterwards as an accessory is a bit, I think it should have been included. But that being said, and on top of that, it's not going to be cheap. From the recommended retail price from the outset will be 129 euros. So it's quite an expensive accessory. And it would be nice to try some out and see how the reviews come through, just to see if it actually works, because you don't want to spend that amount of money only to find that it really doesn't help you at all. Speaking of prices, how much do you think it costs to get the very best? Well, as a brand new potentially groundbreaking instrument from one of the big 3 alpha brands out there. Personally, I wasn't expecting these to be cheap, and indeed this does turn out to be the case. So from release, these will have a RRP beginning at $3,299 or 2,850 euros. So undoubtedly, these prices will come down a bit once they actually hit the shops. And on top of that, those prices are undoubtedly going to be for the 8x42 model. Higher powered binoculars tend to be a little bit more expensive. There are quite a number of interesting reasons to this, which I will link to the article somewhere down below. So yeah, going back to these binoculars, yeah, they are most certainly aimed at the very top of the market. So aimed at the type of user who simply wants the best that money can buy and is prepared to pay a premium for it. I also have an article and a video that goes through the main differences between cheap binoculars and very expensive ones and all the ones in between, and the reasons for that. So whilst binoculars essentially look the same, right from the £50 or euro model or dollar model all the way up to the $3,299 model, they look the same essentially, but obviously the prices, there's a massive difference. And I go through some of the main reasons for this, many of which are completely valid, and I think will give you a better appreciation of the work that obviously goes into producing an instrument like this. And whilst with binoculars, you definitely get a graph which you start off at the bottom of the market. The improvements go very quickly in the beginning, so you only have to pay a small amount more money, and you go from a binocular that's pretty rubbish to one that's okay. But then as you hit the top end of the market, which these no doubtedly are, it begins to level off quite substantially. So any small improvement you make costs you that much more money to achieve. So other than to say that, I think obviously until I actually get a pair in my hands and can actually test and review it, I can't comment as to whether this amount of money is worth it, or is it good value for money or not. And indeed, will these binoculars be better than the EL series, which is personally one of my favorites, and I'm sure the favorites of many other people out there. So these will be interesting things to see, and we can only sort of comment on that once we've had a pair in our hands and we've had time to test them. So there you have it. For far more information and details that I just can't go through in this video, please be sure to check out the link down below. That'll take you through to the full article on the BBR website. So I'll leave it there for now, and I'll just say that if you have found this video useful and interesting, I would really appreciate a thumbs up. And if at all possible, please do remember to subscribe, as this really does help me to produce more and more content for you in the future. So once again, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Cheers for now.